What happens if both drivers leave the scene of the accident? Charges and injury claim details. The driver who left first can be charged with leaving the scene of an accident, and their car may also be impounded. Depending on the circumstances of the accident, the drivers may also be charged with insurance fraud, vehicular manslaughter, or hit and run. What happens when both drivers leave the scene of the accident? 3 scenarios. If both drivers involved in an accident left the scene, their insurance companies will likely pursue civil litigation. If either driver is found guilty of leaving the scene of an accident, they could face serious criminal penalties including jail time and a fine. What should you do if both drivers left the scene? When both drivers have left the scene of a car accident, it is important to determine who was at fault. Determining which driver was at fault can be complicated, but there are some basic steps that you should take if you find yourself in this situation. What is a leaving the scene of an accident charge? If you are involved in a car accident and the other driver leaves the scene, you may be at risk of being charged with a leaving the scene of an accident charge. A leaving the scene of an accident charge is a serious accusation and can result in jail time if convicted. What are the consequences of leaving the scene of an accident in NY? Leaving the scene of an accident can lead to serious legal consequences, including fines, jail time, and loss of your driver's license. There are several reasons why it is so important not to leave the scene of an accident, not only because it could lead to criminal charges, but also because insurance companies may refuse to pay out on claims unless someone has been found at fault for the collision. What happens when both drivers leave the scene of an accident in California? If both drivers leave the scene of an accident, the law in most states, including California, is that property damage liability applies. If the driver who left the scene is found to have been at fault in any way, their insurance company may be forced to pay out more money on claims than if the driver had stayed involved. What if I was not the driver responsible for the accident? If you are injured in the accident, you will need to seek medical attention as soon as possible. If you were not the driver responsible for the accident, your next step is to call the police. How to claim injury when both drivers leave the scene of an accident. When both drivers in a car accident left the scene without providing information, the accident is considered a hit and run. If you have the right lawyer and are prepared to fight for your rights, there is a good chance you will be awarded damages. Does insurance cover when both drivers leave the scene of an accident? Most car insurance policies do not cover accidents in which both drivers leave the accident scene. This is because the driver who leaves the scene of an accident may be able to falsify evidence to make it appear that they were not responsible for the accident. What if a driver leaves the scene and comes back? If the driver who left the scene of an accident comes back, they may be subject to criminal and civil penalties. In some cases, the driver may also have to surrender their license or driving privileges. What happens if you leave the scene of an accident in Michigan? First and foremost, you may be charged with hit and run, MCL 257.521. This crime carries potential prison time of up to 5 years along with fines between $5,000 to $2,000. What happens if the passenger leaves the scene of the accident? If you're a passenger in a car accident and the other driver leaves the scene, you're in for a tough ride. Regardless of whether you're involved in the accident, you're liable for any injuries or damages that occur as a result. Frequently asked questions. How long does it take to file a police report after an accident? The filing notice is the most common report that police officers generate. It contains the driver's name, address, vehicle information, insurance info, and contact info for both drivers. Is there anything that can be done if I am injured in an accident and my driver leaves the scene? If you are injured in an accident and your driver leaves the scene, there is a good chance that you will not be able to pursue litigation. In fact, most states have laws that make it very difficult for victims of traffic accidents to win lawsuits if their drivers leave the scene. Who pays for the damage to the other car when both parties leave the scene of an accident? In most states, the party that was at fault for the accident is responsible for paying for any damages to the other car. This means that, even if you and your passengers leave the scene of the accident, you are still liable for any damage done to the other vehicle. Conclusion. If you were the driver responsible for the accident and you leave the scene, you may be charged with a leaving the scene of an accident charge in NY. If the other driver leaves the scene of the accident, you may not be covered by your insurance and may have to file a personal injury claim on your own.